Hello, 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 and welcome to the Cloud English Podcast. My name is Luke. I'm your host. It is January 21st, 2136, a very exciting day, a very exciting month, a very exciting year. It's great to have you here. I hope you're ready to improve your English. Today, we're going to be talking about English in the workplace. We're going to be focusing on, I'm going to show you something about cover letters, which is a very important part of the job application process. Increasingly so, I would say. Your cover letter is in some cases, in many cases, more important than your resume and is the thing that gets you the interview in a lot of cases. So we're going to be talking a bit about that. I'm going to teach you, if you ever have to handle meetings, if you ever have to run a meeting, if you ever have to facilitate, we're going to learn some very useful, interesting, fascinating phrases, expressions for different things you need to do in meetings. We're also going to play around a little bit with ChatGPT. There's something I've been playing with that I want to show you because I hope some of you are playing along with me and can give me feedback and let me know what you think. I'm always testing out new stuff, and we may get to some other things as well. Now, right at the top of the show, I just want to mention a couple of things. So, the courses, if you would like to get access to all of the courses, I recently added 4 new courses to the yearly membership. Those are available if you get a yearly membership or a monthly membership. And I want to mention there is a discount on the monthly membership, 30% off. So if you're interested in improving your English over the long term, and you think you could take all of those courses within a year, it's a pretty good deal. But you can pay monthly and still get that 30% off. So build monthly, but that big yearly discount. It's pretty cool, I think. Deal. Let's see, what else? And there's something else that's coming up soon around the courses that I'm excited to talk about and share, but we'll get to that when it happens. At the end of this month, or perhaps early next month, I'll be releasing a new course. I released a new course at the end of last month. That was the prepositions course. That course is getting a lot of great reviews. It's getting a great response. People are enjoying that, in spite of it being 30 hours long, which is outrageously long. People are enjoying that. If you want to grab a free course, of course, you're always welcome to do that, and the link's in the description. If you haven't already done that, of course. You can also join the Discord, get updates there about stuff that I put out. It's sort of like subscribing to me there. You can do that on the website too if you like. And in the Discord, you can also reach out to me if you have general questions about things. Although I will say, those who sign up for the membership and are taking the courses actively, you get my personal WhatsApp, and I'm available. So it comes with it. Comes with the membership. Let's see. What else? If you haven't already done so, I would genuinely appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe, or if you're listening instead of watching, then you can follow and favorite and whatever it is that you can do. Rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. I think you can follow or subscribe. So whatever you can do to support that is free for you but helps out a lot, I would be deeply, deeply grateful. What else? Anything else? I think that is mostly it. Since it is January in New York State, we have an outrageous amount of snow. I have a video coming out about words you can use to describe snow pretty soon. Recently, we are getting snow almost every day. We had about 2 feet of snow, and recently it's been snowing at least a little bit every day. I personally love it. I've never been a fan for tropical climates. I've never been a fan of, the same weather every single day. I love the seasons, and especially the winter. Yes, it's cold outside, but it's not cold inside. That's what heat is for. It looks cool, and when you go outside, it's refreshing. It's invigorating. So I'm a winter guy, I would say, not a summer guy. I hate the heat. I can't wait for the summer to be over, usually. Although I will say one thing, because there's a new reason that I appreciate summer. I have solar panels on my roof, of course, to produce electricity. And in the winter, you do produce a little bit. But because you're in the northern hemisphere, the farther up that you go, the angle of the sun is more and more shallow as you move toward the winter solstice, and then as you move away from it, right? So you're not producing much electricity because the rays of the sun are coming at this angle. And so in the summer, the reason that it's warm is that the Earth is tilted toward the sun at a different angle, and so the rays of the sun are more direct, and so you produce a lot more electricity. So now I think I appreciate summer a lot more, simply because solar production is much, much better. And that makes the whole solar thing, much more worthwhile, right? Because in the winter, it's almost a joke. It's almost a joke, but it kind of makes up for itself because you way overproduce in the summer. Okay, enough about that. Anything else going on? Pymander's doing good. He's talking a lot. He's making a lot of noises. If you don't know, Pymander is my son. I think most people know that, right? You probably know that. My son, I recently had a baby, or my wife and I recently had a baby named Pymander. He's 6 months old now, so he's making a lot of noises. A lot of noises like that. He's rolling around. He's grabbing a lot of things. He's putting every single thing that he can find directly into his mouth, and it's an exploratory stage. So it's very interesting to see how you go from this basically sleeping little potato thing that doesn't really do much in the first month to 5 months later, absolutely everything is of interest to him. He's looking at everything. He's paying attention. He's smiling. He's laughing. He clearly has a sense of humor. He's eating some solid foods. It's pretty cool. I like it. It's very interesting. Okay, well, I want to get to, before we get to handling meetings in English, which we will, of course, get to, and that's going to be kind of our main feature for today, I want to do something else. I want to show you how you can write a cover letter using an AI tool. And we're going to look at both Google and ChatGPT because I think it's important to start really looking at both. All right, so here's what we'll do. Hop over here first to ChatGPT. In my opinion, if you're not using AI tools, even the free versions, you're probably not as productive as you could be. I think it's important for work, for a lot of things that we do, to start learning these tools and at least understand how they work. Because if you don't, if you're not, things are going to change very quickly in the near future. And it will be one of those things where people say, you don't use email? You know how you sometimes meet someone in their 70s and they say, yeah, I don't use email. I'm not on email. And you just think, what? It's almost unbelievable, right? Well, that is, I think, how it's going to be for AI tools. I don't even want to say ChatGPT. So I think it's very important. Now, your cover letter is extremely important. This is the thing that gets the attention of a potential employer, that represents you, what is unique about you, your abilities, your qualifications, what makes you a good fit for this role. And this is the thing that maybe a screener or a recruiter or even an automated system is going to go through to see if, okay, this person might be interesting to interview. The thing which may get you your first interview. And so it's very important. And it has to be well written. If you just take a basic template and plug in basic information, it's going to be a bit generic. Now, we're going to be using a bit of a template here, but when we use an AI tool like ChatGPT or even Google, we can make versions that are better and better and better, and then adjust them a little bit, okay? So let's go through how we can actually do this in ChatGPT. We're writing a cover letter. Now, it might not be our final version. We're going to make some small personal changes, but we want to get started with these tools because that's a way to be more productive. So the prompt I'm going to use is help me create my cover letter based on the overall style of the template I provide. Now, it's just based on the style of the template. It's not saying just plug in generic information. This is the important part here. Ask me the questions you need to complete the cover letter and then create the first draft. The company is Luke Media. I hope that's not a real company. I think I made it up. If it's a real company, that's a silly name for a company. Now, see, I have some basic information here. It might ask me for that. You know what? For the sake of this one, let's just skip this. Let's skip this for now. Dear hiring manager, and then we have a basic generic template that anyone could get from the internet, But you can take this and answer questions yourself and make it custom for you. Change the company. But the thing to do is make sure it is specific to you. Make sure it is based on your qualifications, why you are a good fit. That's why you should be using tools like this. It makes that process much easier. And you can more easily write more cover letters if you're applying for a lot of jobs. So the key thing again is that we're asking it to ask us questions before it writes the cover letter. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I'd be happy to help you craft your cover letter. Let's gather some information to fill in the template. Job title, your field or industry, focus of Luke Media, your previous company, relevant achievement or project. Can you describe a specific achievement? Okay, so we have a lot of questions here. And just to play with this, what I'm going to do is say, ask me these questions one at a time and wait for my reply before asking the next one. Now you could put this in the original prompt if you want to, but I'm doing this for a reason because I like to have a more conversational approach to creating things. Okay, so now what we do is we get one question here, the job title. Okay. Now I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to hop over to the phone version, and that's why I'm looking down, by the way. I'm going to hop over to the app, and so we do this. There we go. Now we are in the app. And we're going to have this conversation as a voice chat. We're going to just talk. Okay? So I'm going to pop on my headphone here, my earbud, and we'll get started and we'll make this a conversation. Now we're just going to go through some of the basic information and then we'll see what we can get. So here we go. I'm interested in the role of Chief Video Creator at Luke Media. Oh. Hold on a second. I'm not getting the audio here. Getting the audio on my computer. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Here we go. I'm interested in the role of head video creator, and also I'm interested in a writing position on one of the writing teams. Okay, hold on. Let me fix my audio thing. I'm interested in one of the writing positions, and based on my previous experience, since I have done a lot of writing in the past, I'm interested in a writing position. Why? Why is it not playing? Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me fix the audio here. Give me a second. What's going on? Yes, audio. If you guys can hear the audio or not. Okay, let's try this. Let me try this again. Hold on. I love technical difficulties. They're my favorite. Okay. All right, so let's hop back over here. Here we go. Testing.
I'm here.
Great. So I'm interested
in... How can I assist you further with your cover letter or any other questions you might have?
So I'm interested in applying for a writing position, and also am interested, based on my previous experience, in working on writing. There's a position in the company for chief video planning. So I'm interested in that position.
Understood. You're considering both a writing position and the chief video planning position at Luke Media. Since each position might require a different approach in the cover letter, which one would you like to work on first?
Let's work on the video creator, video planning producer position.
Perfect. We'll focus on the cover letter for the chief video planning producer position. Moving on to the next question. Your field industry. What industry or field do you specialize in, relevant to the chief video planning producer role?
So I've been working in video production for a long time, having done a lot of online courses and also helped produce video for both television, some television shows that many people will know, including cooking shows. I worked on Gordon Ramsay's cooking show, Hell's Kitchen, and I've also worked with YouTube creators to produce videos.
Impressive background. Let's capture that. Your field industry, video production with experience in television and online content, including notable work on shows like Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen and projects with YouTube creators. Next question. What is Lala Luke Media's main focus, or what do they specialize in that you are passionate about?
I really appreciate the focus on providing the highest quality content and keeping content generally concise. And also, I appreciate the focus on educational content. I think, in terms of educational content, Lala Luke Media is the best that there is.
Great insight. It sounds like you value Lala Luke Media's commitment to high quality, concise, and educational content. Moving on, your previous company. Can you name the company you previously worked for where you gained significant experience related to the chief video planning producer role?
I recently worked with several major YouTube creators as a freelance video producer. I helped create ideas for their videos based on their individual style and voice, the overall direction of their channels, and then help them produce those videos from the beginning, from inception through production, the recording and editing process, post-production, all the way through creating thumbnails and publishing the video.
That's a rich experience. We'll note that down as your previous company, freelance work with major YouTube creators covering the entire video production process. Next question. Relevant achievement or project. Can you describe a specific achievement or project you led during your freelance work that relates to the chief video planning producer position?
So wearing many hats is something that I think would be very relevant to Lala Luke Media, having to understand the big picture goals, but also all of the different skill sets from how to use cameras, lighting, color balance, audio equipment, the editing process, but also the writing process, and how to connect with an audience, how to fit within the voice and style of a creator. All of these things I think would be highly relevant and something I have a lot of experience with.
That's a comprehensive skill set. Let's summarize this for the cover letter. Relevant achievement or project. Successfully wore multiple hats in video production projects, overseeing the big picture goals while also diving into specifics like camera work, lighting, audio, editing, and writing. Notably skilled in aligning content with the unique voice and style of each creator, ensuring a strong connection with the audience. Next, positive outcome of the project. What was a significant positive outcome or impact from one of your video production projects?
Let's go ahead and do the first draft of the cover letter first, and then we can get into more questions if we need to.
Sure, I'll create a first draft of the cover letter for the chief video planning producer position at Lala Luke Media based on the information you've provided so far. Here it goes. Dear hiring manager, I'm really excited about the chief video planning producer position at Lala Luke. I believe I would be an excellent fit for the role, given my extensive background in video production, including work on renowned television shows like Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen and collaborations with major YouTube creators. My passion for producing high quality, concise, and educational content aligns perfectly with the focus of Lalaluke Media. In my recent freelance work with several prominent YouTube creators, I took on multiple roles, managing everything from conceptualization to publishing. This experience honed my skills in camera work, lighting, color balance, audio, and editing. More importantly, it enhanced my ability to write compelling content and tailor each production to fit the unique voice and style of the creator, ensuring a strong connection with the audience. I'm eager to bring this multifaceted expertise to the chief video planning producer role at Lalaluke. What really draws me toward Lalaluke is your commitment to delivering the highest quality content, especially in the educational domain. I'm particularly impressed by your work in mention a specific aspect of the company, such as innovation, creativity, or community involvement. Especially mention a specific project, campaign, or initiative by Lalaluke Media. I'd love the chance to contribute my comprehensive skill set in video production to help your team achieve and surpass your content creation goals. I'm looking forward to the possibility of bringing my expertise in video production, my enthusiasm for creating impactful educational content, and my dedication to exceptional work to the team at Lalaluke Media. Best, feel free to review and let me know if there's any specific aspect you'd like to adjust or elaborate on.
Okay. So I think we've got a pretty good, start here. Let's actually go back over to this view. Okay. And I'll just hit refresh here. No, thank you. Now, we didn't get to answer, or I didn't answer all the questions. I wanted to see the kind of the direction it was going in. I think the questions that we would have answered would have filled in these blanks here. Mention a specific aspect of the company, such as innovation, and mention a specific project campaign. So for a second version, I may add that information, or I might decide, you know what, it's actually long enough. I don't want this cover letter to be much longer, so I may just ask ChatGPT to remove those things, get rid of those brackets, and then we can get a final draft. So as a first draft, apart from those brackets, I think it's pretty solid as a cover letter. Now, I would want to still go into it and maybe add a couple of personal touches. Obviously, this is fictional, right? I'm just making this stuff up. I've never worked on Hell's Kitchen or with major YouTube creators, to be honest. But just to give you an idea, the process here is you want to give it something. You want to give either ChatGPT, or if you're using another one, you want to give it an example of something. And then you want to answer questions to fill in the important details based on your experience, what you would contribute. You'll get asked questions like it's an interview, like I answered, and then get a first draft, then do a second draft, maybe a third draft. By the end of that, you have a very complete, comprehensive, hopefully very solid and personalized, very important to say that, personalized cover letter. Now, what you need to do then is, if you're applying to a bunch of different positions, take that, if they're similar roles, take that and make versions of it using ChatGPT. Now create a version of this for another company, but focus instead of my experience with creators, focus on this experience, or something like that. Or you could, if you really want to, start from scratch. But I think it's a great starting point to get to a pretty solid cover letter without a lot of effort. And that's really, I think, the power of using a tool like this. So give it a try. Let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course in the links in the description. Okay. And let's see. Let me just make sure also that I don't have any other audio hiccups, because that was kind of weird, right? That was a bit weird. let me go back to the phone view here and just make sure that things are working okay. Can I switch over to, yeah. Okay. We're going to go to the phrases next, so hold tight. We're going to get to that next for handling meetings, so don't worry about that. I just want to doing some real-time problem solving here. Doing some real-time problem solving. All right, let's try this. Testing, testing. Can you give me a few sentences?
Of course. Here are a few sentences. With a rich background in video production and a keen eye for storytelling, I've been instrumental in bringing creative visions to life. My experience ranges from crafting engaging content for renowned technical skills, but also deepened my understanding of audience engagement, making me well equipped to contribute significantly to Lalaluke Media's innovative projects. Feel free to let me know if you need anything else.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions in the future or need further assistance, feel free to reach out. Have a great day.
Okay. I mean, I think it's working. It sounds okay from my side. And I'm seeing it on my screen, so hopefully that's okay. Are you guys hearing the those listening live? Are you hearing the ChatGPT voice? Can someone let me know if you hear that correctly, if that sounds right to you? That would be awesome if you could tell me. I would appreciate it. That would be magical. Okay, moving on. Moving right along. We're going to be talking a bit about handling meetings and some English phrases that we can use to do that well. Okay. Okay. Actually, hold on. I just want to make sure that this is not an issue. I really got to check this. I'm going to actually go to YouTube where this is streaming. I just want to make sure that it's playing okay. All right, let's see. Bear with me. Give me 1 second. Hear myself. Does it sound good? That's the question. Oh yeah, it sounds good. Sounds good. Hey! Hip hip hooray, it sounds good. Hip hip hooray, it sounds good. Just out of curiosity, let's see how well that Google Bard can handle it. Bard is getting a lot better. So what happened with Bard was it was built on one model and then it was updated recently with another model that's called Gemini. And Gemini is a lot more powerful. It understands context better. It can write better. It seems to be better all around. You can listen to what Bard says, but as of right now, you cannot have a live call with Bard in the same way that you can have a live call with ChatGPT. So that's the benefit of ChatGPT. But let's just see how well Bard can handle exactly the same information here. Yes, thinking. Bard is thinking. Bard is thinking. Bard is thinking. Bard is thinking. Let's zoom in a little bit. Bard is thinking. Bard is thinking. Come on, Bard. Okay, I'd be happy to help you draft your cover letter. To personalize it effectively, I need some additional information. Okay. Full name, job information, field industry, something specific about their projects, values, or mission. Okay. Yeah, okay. So it's asking similar things, and I could probably have a back and forth question and answer if I wanted to answer the questions with Bard and have Bard write a cover letter too. So I feel like they're getting closer and closer, actually. They're more, in my view, more and more similar, which is good. That means there's kind of competition happening, right? That's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. All right, moving on. Moving on. Popping over to here. If you sometimes need to handle meetings, to run meetings, to facilitate meetings, there are some really common and very useful phrases that you can simply learn and then use to better handle those meetings, to better facilitate those meetings in English. So let's learn them. We're going to look at them by, let's say, purpose, based on the thing that we need to do inside of the meeting, okay? And we're going to start with starting the discussion, how we can begin the conversation, right? Usually meetings, you're talking about something. So what are we going to talk about? How can I begin things in a way that sounds friendly, approachable, right? So I may just say, let's get started. Maybe people are having random conversations. Okay, let's get started. This brings everyone's attention to me, and now we can begin, right? Before we dive in, let's recap what we have decided so far. So to dive in, another very common expression, this is to begin, but it has a feeling of really getting into it, being immersed in it, to dive in like a swimming pool. We're really going to tackle this and have an interesting, challenging meeting. We may discuss things, we may disagree, right? So before we dive in, let's recap what we've decided. So this is kind of setting a foundation. Before we really get into it, before we get started, let's talk about what we have done so far. To recap often means to go over things that we have talked about before. Now, I may want to set the stage simply by stating why we're here. Just in case you didn't know, maybe you were out sick. Well, okay, why are we here? The main goal of today's meeting is to, and then state the main goal. What is the purpose of today's meeting, right? So those are very, very useful ways to begin the discussion. Now, how about sort of setting the tone at the beginning? We're still around the beginning. Maybe we have some rules. Maybe we want to let people know how to interact with each other, right? Maybe we want to just state that we know that guy over there talks too much. Nobody wants to say it, but I want to just say a few things at the beginning so that everyone has those things in their brains as we go into the meeting. So feel free to raise your hand if you have something to add. This is saying don't just shout out what you want to say, right? I'm saying feel free to do this, but what I'm really saying is this is how you should interact. I don't want everyone just arguing and fighting in this meeting. Maybe that's good for some meetings. For this meeting, that's not what I want. If you have something to say, put your hand up and then you can say it, okay? Let's make sure everybody has a chance to speak. Some people maybe are more likely to talk and talk and talk and not let others get a word in edgewise. Well, in that case, I can say this at the beginning just as a reminder to those people who may talk too much, maybe, to, hey, let's get everyone's opinion. Let's have a balanced conversation, right? Now, maybe I want to actually get more participation. I'm seeing that some people are sharing more than others, okay? Well, I may turn to the person who talks less and say, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Dave. Maybe Dave is usually very quiet, so I want to specifically talk to Dave. I'd like to hear what you think about this. Dave, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Dave, because Dave hasn't shared enough. Or, okay, Carl, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Then I turn to Dave and say this. Okay? Does anyone else have any thoughts or input on this? You can say thoughts, input, suggestions, whatever. The interesting thing about this is, if nobody has spoken, I maybe say something for 5 minutes. I give my ideas, and then let me go back, and then I get people to share. And to do that, I say now is the time to share. And to do that, I say, does anyone have input? Now, does anyone else have input is a little different. If I say, does anyone else have input? These two are talking a lot. They have a lot of input, and I want to ask people besides them if they want to share something. Okay, you two have shared what you think a lot. Anyone else? Right? So this is a great way to invite participation, right? A great way to ask people directly if they have an opinion is to say, what's your take on this? Now, you might say, this is putting people a bit too much on the spot, right? What if I don't have an opinion? Sometimes you want to do that. Sometimes you want to focus on one person and say, what do you think about this? Right? And that can be a good thing. Again, it's just a tool that you can use in some situations. Now, how about guiding things along? Guiding the conversation. Well, that's a very important thing to know how to do, right? So maybe people are mentioning unrelated things that I don't really want to talk about right now, because if we talk about everything, we'll never get to the thing that we really need to talk about. So stay focused. Stay focused. This is a great way to get things back on track. And you can say that. We need to get back on track. Let's stay focused on the topic of our budget for next year, or whatever the topic is, right? We're getting off track. This is letting everybody know, hey, this is not good. We're talking about a bunch of random things. The purpose of this meeting is to talk about the budget or whatever. So I'm just letting everybody know that this is not good. Let's refocus. Let's refocus on the thing that we're trying to talk about, the budget, all right? Now, sometimes a thing that somebody says is off topic, but still important. And so you don't want to shut them down. You don't want to say, hey, shut up. Don't say that. What you want to say is, that's good, but this is not the right meeting. So maybe we could talk about that next week. Write that down. Somebody write that down. Somebody write that down. And make sure we talk about it next week. Let's get back on track. So it's respecting that they have an idea that's good, while at the same time letting everyone know that that's not the right thing to talk about at this time, right? That's an interesting point. Can you explain that more? Somebody who maybe has an idea but doesn't give any support or is shy, maybe needs to be drawn out a little bit. Hey, that's a really interesting idea. Can you explain that more? Can you tell me a little more? Why do you think so, right? You're giving someone a compliment, which may make them more likely to want to share something, right? So that can be a really great way to get someone to give a bit more. Now, what about clarification? This is very important, because often people say things and everyone hears it and understands it in a different way. Right. So I want to make sure that I understand so that everybody understands. Okay, so if I understand, what you're saying is that, or if I understand correctly, you're saying that either way, right? if I understand correctly, you're saying that, or if I understand what you're saying is, this is me stating out loud what you said in my words, and if I'm wrong, that's okay, because then you can clarify and everyone understands. But if two people say it, then we can make sure everyone is clear and isn't having their own understanding, right? Now, maybe we're all talking about something and we all kind of agree, but it's here and there. All right, someone's stated some fact or statistic, another person is giving another example. So we all agree, but to sum up, our main point is, right? That's what we're all saying, right? Then at the end, I'll say, right, everybody? Our main point is that we need to, and then everyone says, oh, yes, that's right. Or someone says, not quite. Actually, I think what we're saying is, right? So you can say our main point, your main point. It's just a way to restate things or give a basic summary. And as we talked about, recap is very useful too. Let's recap what we've discussed so far. Again, recap is to just go over everything that has been discussed, everything that has been covered. Okay. Sometimes people do not agree. They have arguments, and sometimes it can get emotional, it can get personal, there can be a conflict, right? So how can we handle this kind of situation? Maybe it's me and another person who disagree. Well, while we may not see eye to eye on this, I see where you're coming from. So this is to say, eye to eye means we have the same understanding or the same opinion, the same view on something. Well, we don't, me and you, right? I see where you're coming from as especially maybe important for the moderator or facilitator to know how to use, because if you're just fighting with everyone who has an opinion and you're the one trying to run a smooth meeting, that could be bad, right? So I have an opinion as the person running the meeting. You have an opinion. It's different. We disagree. If I just say, you're wrong, you're an idiot, I'm right. Then they're never going to share their opinion again. But I also can't say, oh, yes, I love that opinion, so good, if I don't actually agree. So how do we thread the needle? We say something like this. Wow, we may not see eye to eye. That is the we disagree part, right? And I could say, while I don't quite agree, while I don't exactly agree, I see where you're coming from. What is where you're coming from? Well, this may be, I understand why you have this opinion. I understand your motivation. It's respectful. It is. It's showing the other person that you're listening to them and you at least care about what they're saying, even if you don't agree. Now, maybe someone just makes a statement and you think they're not justifying it. Well, if you have this opinion and you don't know why, you should have some data. Do you have any data to back up what you're saying? You're making a pretty bold claim here. Do you have any data to back that up? And if they say, yes, here it is, then maybe we can have an interesting conversation, right? So I want to hear all sides of the argument before we move on, maybe. This is another way to kind of get everybody to share. If somebody says something and other people are saying, oh, yeah, okay, let's move on. Yeah, everyone agrees with what he or she said. Well, hey, hold on. I want to hear all sides. I know that Dan doesn't agree, and so I know, we haven't heard everybody's opinion, so let's hear the opposite view. I want to hear all sides before we decide, right? So that can be a really useful one when people are maybe a little too eager to move on to make a decision when not all opinions or views have been expressed, right? Before we wrap up means to finish something, right? This is toward the end of the meeting. We've had some great discussions. People have shared. We've kept things on track. All good. Before we wrap up, does anybody have any final comments This is just to get any little pieces, things people want to say, right? Very, very useful. Let's go around the room for any last thoughts. Anyone, will go in order. You, and you. This is great. You can even use this online if you're using Zoom or Teams or whatever. Let's go around and see if anyone has any last thoughts. Let's go around. You don't have to say the room, but it's basically the same thing. If there's anything else, or if there's nothing else, anything else, nothing else? Yeah, either one, actually. If there's nothing else, if there's anything else, in this case, if there's nothing else, let's discuss CTAs. That means if nobody has other things to say, then we can finally talk about what everyone should do after the meeting, right? What you're supposed to do now that the meeting is done. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to carry out maybe what we agreed or what we decided? Now, if I say if there's anything else, then maybe I could say if there's anything else, send it to me after because we're short on time. I'm saying maybe there's more, but I don't have time for more right now. So it's a little different. If there's nothing else, let's do this. If there's anything else, and then maybe say that you don't have time to get any more opinions, but people can share them over email or talk about them in the next meeting. Finally, at the end, right? Thank you everyone for your contributions. Basically, everyone who said something, I appreciate that you said something, right? Let's call it a day. I'll send a summary of our discussion and the action items. Action items, again, are things that people are supposed to do, the actions that people have at the end of a meeting. I appreciate your time and input today. Again, it's just recognizing everyone who shared their ideas and thoughts and had a discussion for being there, for contributing, right? Okay, have a good one, everybody. Until tomorrow, until next week, until whenever. It's a great way to casually, it's not very formal, but it's still, I think, very professional and common to say until next week, until tomorrow. It's, I think, a great way to end a meeting with a sort of positive, upbeat sort of tone to let everyone know that, hey, we're going to keep talking about this, or I look forward to seeing everybody, or have a great day, that sort of positive feeling. So if you have any questions about any of these, I know we moved very fast. If you have any questions about any of the expressions we talked about to handle any aspects of a meeting in English, there's a lot to it. Of course, there are many other phrases that we could have talked about. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course in the links in the description. Okay. Okie dokie. Yeah, I think that's a useful, a fun topic. There's a lot to talk about there. I mean, that's probably worth a whole course. And in fact, something I may do a whole course on in the future. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I recently finished a series of books, audiobooks, by Stephen Fry. And it's his Mythology series. And I want to give a simple review of it because I think it's honestly a great way for anyone who's interested in mythology to get the big picture view, learn the important names, and also be entertained, right? Because if you read some of the older texts, yes, it has the stories, but they may not be that interesting or they may be hard to get through because of the language. I think some people would say, well, that's how it should be, you know? You should keep things in the original and appreciate them as they are. I disagree. Well, I don't disagree for everything, but when it comes to mythology, I disagree. Neil Gaiman did a series, one book on Norse mythology, modernizing the stories, telling it in a modern, compelling way. And he did a great job, and that makes the stories interesting and accessible because they're told in a modern way. Myths are supposed to be like that. So if you have an interest in mythology, I think this series by Stephen Fry is a great option. And I would strongly recommend that you listen to it. Why? Because Stephen Fry is amazing when it comes to reading audiobooks. He has a great voice, and he's able to do characters really well. If you've listened to his Sherlock Holmes audiobooks, he does a great job narrating those. It's very entertaining. It makes it a breeze to get through the entire Arthur Conan Doyle series, Holmes series, because he's so good at it, and he's so entertaining. So this mythology series is 3 books. The first one is Mythos, and I'll explain the structure because the structure is actually important. So Mythos is all about the sort of big picture first, the gods, their relationships, basically starting from the beginning of time, the beginning of the universe, the birth of each god in Greek mythology, how they came about, right? The genealogy, who's the brother of who and the half-brother of whom, who's the mother, who was born from who's what, because it's not always just direct, simple birth. Sometimes it's something like, the god was ripped into pieces and thrown across the landscape, and every place that a part of, actually it wasn't a god, a titan, was landed on the ground. No, it was a god. Every piece of him that fell on the ground, a titan arose, right? So it's really interesting. You get the big picture view of the whole universe, how the universe was created according to Greek mythology, how all the gods came to be, and then all of their petty problems, their disputes, their romances, their betrayals, and you get along the way the meaning of that individual god, or you get to understand the domain of the god, of Artemis. Why is it that Artemis represents the things that she represents? Or Hermes, right? The messenger god. Why is it that he represents these things, right? And so you get a very, I think, tactile, interesting picture of not just who's related to who, not just where they all came from, but why they mean what they mean, with really interesting stories, right? It reads like a daytime drama TV show. There's a lot of dialogue. It's not just this person did this, or this god did this, and then they did this, and then he was angry and he did this. It's a lot of dialogue and talking. And Stephen Fry does a really good job of, again, doing all of the voices. The interesting thing is that for a lot of the voices, he'll do maybe a posh British accent, and then he'll do somebody who sounds like a farmer. I don't know where he's getting that and why certain people would talk the way that they talk, but he does that throughout this whole series. So you get that in Mythos, and why would you want that? Well, a lot of, let's say, culture, particularly English-speaking culture, gets a lot of stuff from mythology, in particular Greek mythology. And Roman mythology, but Roman mythology is mostly just repurposed Greek mythology. Right? The Romans got their myths from the Greeks, and they just changed a lot of the names, and most of the stories are very similar, right? We use a lot of the Roman names, but Greek mythology is very important in, let's say, Western history, right? And so knowing the references to things that happen in these stories and then how they impact the language, the English language, I mean, for example, the English language, gives more context to, oh, that's why we say that? That's where this comes from? Now I see, right? I never knew what is ambrosia? Why is it called ambrosia? Just getting the backstory of why ambrosia is called ambrosia, that's one example that pops to mind. There's so many little things like that where I make connections to, oh, I know this word. I've heard it a million times. I didn't know it came from this myth or that myth, right? I didn't know it came... I mean, I know about King Midas, and I understand what that means, but having a little bit more context in the specific story gives it a lot more depth, which I think is very interesting. So you have a lot of interactions between the gods, the Titans, and the humans, right? So the story of Pandora is there, and the story of King Midas is there. There's a lot of, let's say, relations between the humans and the gods. And then in the next book, it gets into sort of the next level, which is heroes. And heroes is the gods are a little farther away. So we've already established in the first book, basically, the whole pantheon of the Greek gods and the backstory and all of their drama between the gods and how they maybe have interacted with humanity. Maybe the most important story being Prometheus, who brought fire down to the humans from Olympus and taught the humans how to use fire, and then was punished by being chained to a cliff. Every day a bird would come and peck out his liver, rip it out of his body. Every day it would grow back, and that was his punishment until he was saved by Heracles in one of his labors. But there's a lot of interactions there between the gods and humans, but just kind of normal, regular humans or humanity in general, and less focus on individual people. But then Heroes focuses on specific humans, heroic humans. And most of the ones that this focuses on are generally demigods, or they at least have one god as a parent. So Perseus, Theseus, Heracles, Bellerophon, all of these have at least some, Jason and the Argonauts, all of these have at least some divine parentage, right? They're related to the gods in some way, but they're humans. And they're kind of in the middle of being gods and humans. And some of them get to be gods, most of them don't. And most of the stories don't end well. Like Heracles, for example, ends pretty badly. But it's really interesting because this is sort of one step closer to just regular daily life of people, right? Of real people. Even though these are mythical characters, right? They're people, they're humans. And the interesting thing is that a lot of their problems, a lot of their quibbles and squabbles, their feelings, their emotions are actually the same as the gods. And then we realize, oh yeah, so the gods are just as petty as the heroes are just as petty as us. We're all extremely petty. We're just chasing some emotional highs and trying to avoid the emotional lows, and trying to achieve success and fame, or trying to avoid disaster, right? In one way or another. It's kind of all the same, which is an interesting kind of insight that you get, I think, when you read all three of them together. And again, in Heroes, it's the same thing, where there's a lot of dialogue, there are a lot of characters. It's not clear why someone will get a particular a dialect or way of speaking, but Stephen Fry makes choices just to make it, I think, entertaining. I think that's kind of the main thing. And again, it's mythology, so you want it to be accessible. You want it to be entertaining, because originally mythology is something that was told around the fire by people who were telling stories in contemporary modern language, making people laugh, making people cry, making the audience feel something. And when you read a really old version of a story, you have the difficulty of the language is in the way of enjoying it in a lot of ways, I think. And so when you get a modern version of it, then it's suddenly accessible again, and it's like watching cartoons. It really is like watching cartoons. There's nothing difficult about it. The language is very easy. I will say there are a lot of names, and probably I remember the main ones. I remember the important names, but a lot of the minor names and names of family members and the family trees, absolutely not. I didn't even try to remember all of them. So the first one, Mythos, you have the big picture. You have the Greek pantheon, which changes over time slightly, how that all comes about, and the dynamic between the gods, and the titans, and the humans. And then you have Troy. And Troy is kind of the next level of getting closer and closer to daily life. Troy is actually history. So there actually was a Trojan War in real history, right? So far we're talking about mythology, which is just mythology. No one believes probably that there was actually a Heracles. Now, there may have actually been a Theseus, perhaps, maybe even probably, or at least someone that the mythological character Theseus was based on. And there are, maybe they did, maybe they didn't in some cases, but the Trojan War actually happened. The accuracy of the events, of course, in the story are dramatized, right? Of course, but it happened. And so there are real people living in these cities. There's real people, real citizens living in Troy, right? Real humans, often with no particular special abilities, right? Now, some of the characters in Troy, so the book is called Troy. It's about the Trojan War, which is the Iliad by Homer, right? The two famous books by Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad is about the Trojan War. So this one then goes to that next place of the characters in this war and the interactions between those characters, between the two sides, right? But also the gods. But the gods kind of interact in a slightly different way. It's not two gods talking to each other as often. It's more of the gods are influencing actions or events or conditions in the war. Often that comes out as a breeze or a change in the weather or a change in the morale of someone, or some crazy thing that happened, or a spear being guided in a specific way, right? So it's almost like the gods have receded even farther away first they're the main story, then they interact with the heroes, then they're kind of even farther away from afar, rooting for one side or the other, but not too deeply involved. And it's kind of, humans versus humans. And it's very bloody. It's kind of a bloodbath, but also very entertaining, right? The stories are interesting. This is where you have the story of Paris, who took Helen of Troy. He took Helen with him, and the backstory of Paris, and then how that started a war with her husband, who got very angry. That story is pretty famous. How it actually the war got started, but it's all told in a very, very entertaining way. Again, it kind of reads like a comic book. It's very light, very entertaining, very interesting. So, and again, listening on audio is a great experience. So I recommend picking up these 3 books, treating them kind of as one. First, Mythos, then Heroes, then Troy, reading them in that order, listening to them in that order, and getting a lot of, I think, context for a lot of references you see in the English language in particular. Well, I can only speak to the English language, right? You hear maybe expressions. If you've ever heard someone say, well, he flew too close to the sun. I think a lot of people know what that's from, but if you didn't, it's in there. This is where the creator of The Maze... So, okay, there's Theseus. Theseus is this great hero, and he, through a complicated circumstance, ends up being one of the people chosen to be sacrificed to the Minotaur of another city. And this Minotaur is this very ruthless creature, half bull, half man. And he volunteers because he's planning to kill the Minotaur. But the other challenge is that it's in this maze that no one knows how to get out of. The maze was built by Daedalus. Daedalus is the most famous inventor of all time. He's invented all kinds of amazing contraptions. And so Theseus, the night before, sees Ariadne, and she is this beautiful daughter of the king, and he falls in love and she falls in love. And then the night before, she gives him a ball of yarn. And by the way, etymologically, the word yarn is clue, C-L-E-W. And clue, C-L-E-W, means a ball of yarn, which he uses to find his way out of the maze. But we now have the word clue, C-L-U-E, based on that. So give me a clue. Give me something I can use to solve this problem. Very interesting. So he goes into the maze. He finds the Minotaur. He uses the yarn to create a path that he can then follow. You can follow the yarn back out, right? And he kills the Minotaur. The Minotaur is actually grateful to be killed because it's a miserable creature. And so then he leaves. He escapes. And they're followed by Daedalus and his son, using wings that Daedalus has made. And so I'm simplifying a lot. Anyway, Daedalus and his son are flying with these wings that Daedalus, this great inventor, has made, the guy who made the maze. He tells his son, listen, son, the glue that is used, wax or glue, that is used to hold the feathers onto these wings that I've made, you don't want to get too close to the sun because then it will melt and then the feathers will fall off. And obviously then they won't work. So be careful. But his son is having way too much fun with it, flipping around and flying, and he flies way too high. And he gets really close to the sun, and it melts his wings, and he falls and dies. So, and there are all kinds of little things like that. I'm just picking out one example. So it's rich with references. That's why we say he flew too close to the sun. You're too ambitious. You tried something that was too risky or too dangerous, and you were arrogant maybe. You thought that you couldn't fail, and look what happened after something bad happens, right? All kinds of little references and things that you will recognize when you go through it, that or if you don't recognize them, you'll learn them, and that's a really cool, I think, really cool aspect of it too. So I can't recommend it strongly enough. Pick up these 3 books, read them in order. Let me know what you think. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And also, check out my courses in the links in the description. All right. Was it, let me search one thing. I feel like I missed one detail. How were the Titans created? Because actually, it's been a while since I read Mythos. It took me a while to go through all 3 of them. So, okay, not long after Gaia was created, she gave birth to Uranus, the god of the sky. Together, these primordial gods birthed the Titans and were the leaders of the cosmos before the Olympians. Yeah. But I thought, what was the example where pure Titans are created by injecting Eldians with Titan spinal fluid? Oh, no, that's from the anime. That's from Attack on Titan. How are the Titans created from Uranus? She produced the remaining Titan. Seemed to have started as the Neil. For some reason, I thought that I remember somebody being ripped to pieces and thrown across the sky. And then every place that... Cronus, who overthrew his father Uranus and became the king. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I may be remembering that part wrong. It's been a while. Anyway. Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. Okay, we're going to try one more thing here. We're going to try one more thing. We're going to do a dialogue. Oops. That's not what we want. And there we go. Okay. Have you ever been in a social situation that you didn't feel very comfortable because you didn't know what to say? Maybe it's because you don't have enough practice. How can you practice social situations? Well, you can you can participate in social situations and practice. That's great. But there is a way to do this. It's experimental, but there's a way to do this in ChatGPT. You have to set up the situation. Maybe you have a social event coming up for work. Maybe it's a conference, right? Maybe it's related to your field. You're feeling a little nervous about how to communicate with people, how to interact, how to have a natural conversation. It's reasonable to maybe want to practice a little bit so you can come up with a few things to say and feel more relaxed. So let's do that. Let's do a role play, I'm asking ChatGPT. For the following situation, you will play the parts of the other two people, or of the two other people in the discussion, and I will play myself. Let's make this as realistic as possible, keeping the conversation friendly yet casual, with everyone asking questions and sharing their views. Make the conversation dynamic and interesting without long monologues or artificial sounding dialogue. Use simple, natural sounding speech. If one of the characters asks me, and I'm going to give my name, Luke, a question, wait for my reply, and don't add dialogue from the other character unless they have something to say and it fits into the conversation. What I'm doing here is trying to make this as realistic as possible, as good as I can get it. Okay, so the situation is I, Luke, have attended a conference with language educators, particularly focusing on ESL. In the discussion, there are two people other than me. One, Lester, is a traditional educator who writes textbooks for academies for worldwide distribution. The other, Nisa, is a social media influencer who teaches English on YouTube as a non-native English speaker. We have just finished listening to a talk about how generative AI is shaking up the e-learning space. Again, I, Luke, will play the role of myself. I am attending this conference to network in the industry. I create online educational resources, particularly online resources. I also have an English learning podcast and a YouTube channel. Let's begin. Okay, so Lester says, that was quite an insightful talk about generative AI in e-learning. It's incredible how technology is shaping the future of education, isn't it? And then Nisa gives her opinion. Okay. And then she asks, but I'm curious, Luke, with your experience in online courses and your English learning podcast, how do you see AI influencing your work? Now, at this point, you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, this is all text. That's not very social. Oh, so true. So what we do is we take it over to the app, and then we can have an actual conversation. And that is the cool part. So let's go back over to this conversation. I'm going to pop in my headphones here, and we're going to have a real conversation, a real chat. Okay? All right, here we go. Ready? I think that people are still figuring out how to use all the tools, and there's a long way to go. I think the form that a lot of the AI tools have now will look very silly and primitive compared to what we have in 5 years. And so it's very difficult to predict the future.
That's a really good point, Luke. The pace at which technology evolves is astonishing. I guess it's all about staying adaptable and open to change. Have you started integrating any AI tools into your courses or podcast yet? And Luke, I'm also interested in how you balance the timeless aspects of language learning with these cutting-edge technologies. After all, the fundamentals of language learning haven't changed much, have they?
That's true. I think the fundamentals will always stay the same in the sense that really people who want to learn a language better just want to communicate well, and they want to get things done in their lives. They want to make connections. So what I tend to do is use the tools to help me help people do those things better and more effectively. For example, I may use ChatGPT during during episodes of my podcast or during videos to give people an example of how they might try to practice something or learn something. For example, practicing a conversation with native English speakers.
Using ChatGPT in that way sounds incredibly practical and engaging for your audience. It's
True.
like giving them a sandbox to practice in with immediate feedback. Do you think this kind of interactive tool helps with learner motivation? And Luke, how do you ensure the quality of such AI interactions? I mean, ensuring that the language model provides accurate and culturally appropriate responses must be a challenge, especially considering the diversity of your audience.
I think that's where you have to let people use the tools themselves. If I were to say, hey, here's the prompt that everyone has to use only this and don't understand why, that would be a problem, because then maybe the responses wouldn't be culturally specific or appropriate. What I can do is show people generally how to use the tools. My prompts may not even be spelled correctly. In fact, I think the important thing is to just make sure people know how to use the tools on their own to get their own things done in their own way. And once they can do that, then they can solve their own problems.
That's a very empowering approach, Luke. Encouraging autonomy and personalized learning is key, especially in language learning. It makes the learning process much more relevant and meaningful to the individual. I must admit, I hadn't considered the potential of these tools to foster independent learning to such an extent. It's quite different from the structured approach of traditional textbooks. Luke, you've given me quite a bit to think about in terms of how these AI tools could complement rather than replace traditional learning materials.
Thanks, Lester. I appreciate that. Hey, by the way, do you think you could go grab me a coffee?
Sure thing, Luke. It's the least I can do after the insights you've shared. Any preferences for your coffee? And while Lester's getting your coffee, Luke, I'd love to hear more about your podcast. It sounds like a great platform for language learners.
Yeah, so Lester, I will have if you could just stop at Starbucks and grab me a grande iced almond milk half calf latte with one splash of hazelnut, and get me also a Rice Krispie treat, please. Now, Nisa, I think, yes, the podcast, I'm very excited about it. But I think really the important thing is in the online world, we have to do what is interesting to us and not worry about much else, because if we're not interested in it and it gets boring, then we'll easily burn out.
Got it, Luke. Grand iced almond milk half calf latte with a splash of hazelnut and a Rice Krispie treat. I'll be right back with your order. That's such a fresh perspective, Luke. Staying true to what interests you definitely sounds like the key to longevity and authenticity in this fast-paced online world. It must keep your content vibrant and your audience engaged. Do you have any particular topics or formats that you're exploring in your podcast currently?
Okay, let's stop there. Now, we head over to the ChatGPT window, and then we can review the whole conversation. Now, just to be clear, I would not normally just demand someone go get me a coffee in the middle of a conversation. That's a weird thing to do. I wouldn't do it. I was just being playful there. I wanted to see how ChatGPT could handle it. Surprisingly well. Look, Luke demands a latte. Lester says, got it, Luke. Grande iced almond milk half calf latte with a splash of hazelnut and a Rice Krispie treat. He immediately goes to get it. Lester, he's a people pleaser. That's what Lester is. And then it's just an interesting, I think, back and forth. The dynamic is good to me, except for my bizarre request. I think it's pretty realistic. So what do you do with this? What you should do with this is find, if you want to practice your English, find situations or think about situations that you actually have to maybe handle or deal with, or maybe that you often find yourself in on a regular basis. And write those down, describe them in depth, create. You can use my basic prompt as a starting point. Make sure you spell everything correctly, or don't. It's fine, actually. It works fine either way. Set up the prompt well so that the dialogue flows naturally and you actually get to practice. For this one, it's important to actually do the voice chat so that you have that feeling of being in a conversation. But this is a fantastic way to practice your spoken English and to simulate those live conversations so that when you do find yourself in those situations at conferences or situations at work, it feels familiar and you have practiced it before, right? And actually, for people who may have anxiety about social interactions, right, this can be a useful approach as well. So if you feel anxious about having an interaction or going to a social event or something, this could be a good way to at least feel mentally prepared to practice a little bit. So try it out with your own situations. Let me know how well it works for you. Let me know the situations that you come up with. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also check out my courses in the links in the description. All right. Okay. I think that went really well. I think that went very well. I wonder if I have to know if Lester comes back with the coffee. Let's go back. I must know. So what was the question she asked? Do you have any particular topics or formats that you're exploring in your podcast currently? Recently in the podcast, I have been exploring topics like books I've been reading. I've been talking a bit about useful idioms and phrases. Well, I really have just been kind of following my intuition, things that I enjoy talking about, and not forcing it too much. How about you?
That sounds so genuine and refreshing, Luke. I love the idea of integrating personal interests like books into language learning. It makes the content so relatable. I've been experimenting with interactive live sessions on my YouTube channel, where viewers can ask real-time questions. It's quite challenging, but also very rewarding to see the immediate impact and connect with the audience. It's all about keeping it engaging and interactive, isn't it?
It sure is. Wow, I'm getting really thirsty. I wonder where the heck Lester is with my dang coffee.
He should be back any minute now. The coffee line can be unpredictable at these conferences, especially after a big talk. Everyone needs their caffeine fix. In the meantime, if you don't mind me asking, Luke, how do you handle feedback and interaction in your podcast? Do you have a specific method for engaging with your audience or collecting their input?
I used to really focus on the live aspect and doing the Q&A part, and that was interesting, but I and maybe I will get back to that in the future. I found that I was more interested in planning topics that I wanted to talk about and then sharing those as clearly as possible in an engaging way was a little bit more rewarding. But I do like to get feedback on things from my audience for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Having a balance between structured content and audience interaction seems like a solid approach. It allows you to share your insights, while still keeping a pulse on what your audience is interested in. It's all about finding that sweet spot, right? Sorry for the delay, Luke. Here's your grande iced almond milk half-calf latte with a splash of hazelnut and your Rice Krispie treat. I hope it's to your liking. And just in time, we were just discussing the balance between planned content and audience interaction. Lester, you've got perfect timing.
Thank you, Lester. Not a moment too soon. I was just about to pass out because I need coffee at least every 24 minutes or, well, I have a condition, let's say that. So thank you so much for the coffee. I do, though, wish you had been a little faster with it.
I apologize for the wait, Luke. The line was longer than I expected.
Lester,
I'll remember your condition for next time and make sure to prioritize your coffee order. Enjoy your drink and feel free to let me know if you need another one sooner. Now, I'm curious, Luke, how do you balance your need for frequent coffee breaks with your podcast recording and content creation schedule?
I don't know. Oh my God, Lester, look, my shoe's untied. Can you tie it for me?
Oh, of course, Luke. Let me help you with that. It's important to stay safe and avoid any trips or falls. Looks like you're the man of the hour, Lester. It's nice to see such camaraderie here. Luke, once your shoe situation is sorted, maybe we can discuss potential collaborations or share tips on managing the small but crucial parts of our day-to-day work, like coffee breaks and, well, shoelaces.
Yeah, Nisa, I think that would be great. I think maybe we could collaborate. But Lester, actually, I'm wondering if I can ask one other favor. So my dry cleaning, I forgot to pick it up. I have to pick it up today because I have a big event tomorrow, and one of my suits is being dry cleaned. It is a 45-minute drive from here. I know that it's a big favor to ask, but would you be willing to go downtown, pick up my dry cleaning, and bring it back to me here? And then I will stay here and continue chatting with Nisa. I'm turning Lester into my personal assistant.
Well, Luke, I'm all for helping out, but that's quite a request, especially during the conference. Perhaps we could find a more convenient solution. Maybe there's a delivery service that could handle that for you. I wouldn't want to leave you and Nisa hanging here at the conference. That's a good point, Lester. These services are usually pretty reliable, Luke. It might be a more efficient way to manage your time, and then we can all stay and continue our discussion. What do you think?
Lester, I will pay you $500 if you go pick up my dry cleaning. What do you say?
That's a generous offer, Luke, but I'm here to network and learn from this conference,
Oh,
much like
geez,
you.
Lester.
I wouldn't feel right leaving for that long, even for $500. Maybe we can brainstorm a different solution together? Yeah, Luke, it seems like a lot to ask during such an important event. Maybe we can help you find a local service to get your dry cleaning delivered here instead. That way, you won't miss out on any of the conference, and Lester can stay here with us. How does that sound?
No, if Lester doesn't go pick up my dry cleaning, then I'm leaving. And so, Lester, if you are refusing to go get my dry cleaning, then I'm afraid I have to go.
Luke, I truly didn't mean to upset you. I understand it's important, but I'm really here to make the most out of this conference. Maybe we can quickly find a local service to assist you so you don't have to leave. Yes, Luke, we really value your company and the insights you've been sharing. It would be a shame for you to leave over this. Let's figure out a solution that works for everyone so we can continue our conversation.
I'm going to have to go think about it. I'm going to go stand over there in that corner with my half-calf latte and think about it. You guys can talk amongst yourselves. I'm very upset.
We understand, Luke. Take the time you need. We're here if you want to talk more or need any help figuring things out. Your presence and contributions to our discussion have been really valuable. Yes, Luke, we hope you decide to stay. We all have those moments when things get overwhelming. Just know that we're here to support you, and we'd love to continue our chat when you're ready. Feel free to join us back whenever you feel up to it.
Don't patronize me, Lester. I won't have that. I cannot accept that. Don't talk to me like that. I am offended, I'm hurt, and I'm leaving.
I apologize if it came across that way, Luke. It wasn't my intention to patronize. I genuinely respect your feelings and the situation you're in. If you decide to leave, I understand, but know that you're welcome back anytime. And Luke, we really do value your thoughts and the time you've spent with us. If there's anything we can do to make this right or help out, please let us know. We hope to see you again.
Well, Lester, would you be willing to carry me over to the corner so that I can stand over there and sulk with my coffee?
Well, Luke, while I'm all for supporting each other, maybe carrying you over might be a bit much in the middle of this conference. How about I walk with you over there instead, and we can find a comfortable spot for you to take a moment and enjoy your coffee? Yes, and if you need a moment to yourself, that's perfectly okay, Luke. We're here for you, just a few steps away when you're ready. And if there's anything specific you need, just let us know.
Wow, that took a weird turn, and it's my fault. I just wanted to push the envelope a little bit and see what would happen. My goal there was to try to get Lester to completely get out of the headspace of being a participant in this conference and to eventually work him to a point where he was just basically became my personal assistant and forgot all about being an attendee at the conference. But surprisingly, I feel ChatGPT did a good job of being consistent with his character and not letting him suddenly do something weird. He did give me the coffee. That was a little weird. Most people would say no to that. But not going to get my dry cleaning 40 minutes away and not carrying me over to the corners so that I could sulk with my coffee. That's pretty realistic. To do those things would have been very weird. And so I guess what I proved is I'm crazy. That's the only thing I proved in social situations. No, of course, I would never do something like that. I was just being playful. I'm just pushing the limits to see how flexible ChatGPT is with these conversations and how consistent, right? Pretty interesting, actually. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a day for today. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, I would sincerely appreciate if you would follow, like, subscribe, whatever you can do that is free and easy to support the channel. I would be most grateful. And you can, if you look in the description, find links to all my courses, either to sign up for the yearly membership or the yearly membership paid monthly at 30% off. You can get a free course in the links in the description as well. That is always available. Again, join the Discord if you want. If you do sign up for the courses in the membership, that also comes with access to yours truly via WhatsApp if you have questions and need help along the way as you go through the courses. So anyway, that is it. Thank you so much for joining. Take care. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.